Hey guys, Brandon here, host of the High Pointers on PBS, and we are excited to bring you an extended interview with Marshall Ulrich. So Marshall was our guest on our Colorado high point, Mount Elbert, and we really only touched the surface of who Marshall is. In the episode, we called him the King of Endurance because he's done hundreds of ultra marathons, all kinds of distances. He ran across the U.S. in 52 days, averaging 60 miles a day, running 3,000 miles. He has run the Badwater Ultramarathon, which is considered the world's toughest foot race. You go from the lowest point in the Western Hemisphere, Badwater, to the highest point in the U.S., Mount Whitney, and he's done that over 20 times. He started running it so many times that his toenails kept coming off, so he surgically removed all of his toenails. I mean, the guy really he's tough. So we didn't really get into it too much during our episode. So we wanted to bring you an extended interview that we did with Marshall when we were in Leadville, getting ready for the high point. We talk a little bit about his ultramarathon background, and if you stay through to the end, he actually pulls out a surprise that we didn't get to air on our episode on PBS. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Marshall. I like to think of him as the modern day Forrest Gump because he started running when he was around 30 because he had something tragic that happened to him. His wife passed away and they were childhood sweethearts, and so it was a way for him to just work through the pain, and he started running and he never stopped. So enjoy this interview with Marshall Ulrich, the King of Endurance.
Well, Marshall, we figured you are the expert of Leadville. We've been here a couple times, and every time we come here, this is the place that we come. So we figured we'd show you where to go, because
this place has primo pizza.
I've heard about it.
Yeah.
So
I've heard it's fantastic. I'm looking
usually when it
forward
comes to
it.
mountains, we like mountains and pizza.
Yeah.
So, Marshall, because Greg and I have been here a couple times. Greg's run Leadville a couple times. I've never run. I've just paced them. So you're the legend of ultra running. How many times have you done
Leadville, I finished it 13 times.
13.
Yeah, and I've placed as high as third, so I've run just a little over 20 hours here.
So when you placed, what year was it when you placed third?
I think it was 1992 or 1993, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I was in my 40s.
Okay.
Certainly I'm older now, so. And the last time I ran it was about 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
So what is it that just draws you back 13 times?
The thing about Leadville, I think a lot of it has to do with its history, number one. And they established the race basically so it would revive the community because the Climax mine up here went belly up. Now it's operating again, and it's doing very well, and it's helping the economy, but at that time there was nothing, so they established the Leadville 100 back in the early 80s, and it breathed life and vitality back into the community. So it's kind of a contagious thing. I come to Leadville, and here are all these people that it's kind of like miners of sorts. It's really interesting because they come here to run the race, and you get to know these people, and it's a small community, as you know, Greg. And so they become like family to you. So every time I come back here, it's like coming home. It's like a big reunion for me.
Yeah, there is something special about it. It's like the spirit of the town. It's like those miners were super tough guys, and they bring in this just crazy hard endurance race. It kind of has that same spirit, right?
Yeah.
Just that mental toughness.
I feel
Exactly.
it's interesting because it's like 10,100 feet. I don't know if it's the elevation that makes people, like Leadville is very unique, I should say. Like the people are just, they're characters. It almost seems.
They're hardy.
Hardy. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got a cross section, and then you have an influx of people who are buying the old houses and restoring them. Old Victorian houses for the most part, if you will. And so once again, there's more vitality there, but something draws them, and It could be the altitude, cool summers.
Yeah.
And so they come here, and it's like a big vacation, only they have a place here to stay.
So how many ultramarathons have you done? Like, have you lost track, or have you?
Well, what I like to say is I'm right at about 129 that average over 125 miles.
So you're not even counting the 50s, right? Those are just.
Yeah, so, as far as ultra marathons are concerned, even running across America, I was running about 60 miles a day for 52 days.
Yes, right.
I just count that as one. So
Right.
that brings the average up to where the distances are longer. And then, of course, I was doing a lot of the eco challenges, which are sometimes 400 or 500 miles long.
Long adventure races.
Yeah, yeah.
So of all the races, I mean, it's always hard, but what would you consider like one of your top, 1, 2, or 3? Could you even say what is your favorite one?
Favorite ones? I think right here at Leadville, and then also I do quite a lot of racing out in Death Valley. The Badwater one.
That's what you're known for the most part, right?
Yeah, for the most part. And they call it the Badwater 135. When I started doing it, it was the Badwater 146 that went from the lowest point in the contiguous U.S. at minus 282 feet to the highest point, which is Mount Whitney, which you guys will probably be doing this summer.
Yeah, hopefully.
So, and it's 146 miles. So I finished that race 20 times, and I've always gone to the top as a tradition to keep with the spirit.
So
of it
every
all.
time you do it, you just continue on up to
Right, right. Sometimes I'll take a day or two rest, and then I'll go up. But back, I think it was 1991, I tried to set the record. I did set the record for running that 146 miles, and I think it's somewhere around 33 hours and change or something like that, and it's still the record.
So of all the races, what would you consider is the most difficult?
I think running across America, because every day I had to run
60 miles every day.
Yeah, and you go to bed thinking, oh my God, I got to get up tomorrow, and what do I have to look forward to? Another 60 miles. But once you get out the door and you get going, you kind of get the juices flowing, and you just continue on. So
What kind of food did you eat during the run across America?
anything that I could get. Mostly it was lots of proteins, fats, bump those up. Greasy food, that was always good, like chicken. And then I would eat something every mile religiously. And from San Francisco to New York over those 52 days, I only lost 40 pounds.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I was, I was consuming anywhere from 7,000 to 10,000 calories a
So I
day.
mean, your diet was so dialed in, right?
Pretty
was
much.
was that the reason? Like you just knew exactly?
I had a great crew too.
Yeah.
And my wife crewed me all the way across, as she's done through so many of these things. And so, you can't do these things alone.
That's right.
As, you probably know, and you know too.
Yeah.
You've got to have that support infrastructure in order to accomplish things like that. So, the credit goes to them. It's, I do the easy part. I just put one foot in front of the other.
I mean, many people think that ultramarathoning is like this solo sport, but really it's like one person running a race, there's a whole crew behind them that is doing a lot of
Yes,
work.
exactly. And you see more and more, like with Leadville, using this as an example during the 100, the crews get bigger and bigger. When I first started doing that, you were pretty much out there on your own. It was pretty rare to even have a pacer. So it's changed a little bit, and I think it's because the sport has become popular. And I like that because back when I was doing it, in the mid 80s and things like that, we were kind of looked at as sort of freaks. Now it's kind of gotten into the mainstream, and I'm really happy about that because I think we really are predisposed to be able to do extraordinary things like running 100 miles or more.
Right.
Yeah. So something I've heard about you is you're ultra positive amongst like these really tough events, really tough races. Like you have something that you can just really stay positive in the really hard moments when that adversity hits. So like, where does that come from?
I think a lot of it. I grew up on a farm. So take for instance, I sledded hay. When I was 12, 14 years old, stacking bales and things like that. It was a dairy farm, so we milked cows. I think it's just a work ethic. And so you just the focus just becomes the task at hand, and you just stay focused and keep going. But having said that, I've had some, very weak moments, and I've quit before. And what I like to tell people is I always learn more from my failures than my successes. There's something to be learned from. There's silver lining to it all.
Right. So you've done a ton of ultra marathons, and then you've done every eco challenge so far to date, right?
There's 3 of us, and
so what explain an eco challenge.
So the eco challenges are traditionally they're maybe 350 up to 500 miles, and they're usually teams of 4. At times there'll be teams of 5, and you have to do the whole race together, finish together, and it's multidiscipline. So you might have mountain biking, sometimes camel riding, like in Morocco, long paddles. It's just uber distances of everything. And a lot of times it'll take anywhere from 6, and I think there was one race that was 500 miles. It took us 13 days. But it becomes a way of life. That's what I like about it.
Yeah.
It's just, you settle in and it's just a one focus. Life becomes very simple, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It looks great.
Speaking of cool.
This
Yeah.
is good.
I don't know if we told you, but we just went ice climbing a little earlier today, and it was like just beautiful setting. 120-foot ice, these ice waterfalls coming down, and but we haven't eaten since then, so we're starving.
Fantastic.
So dig in. And
so I've got one thing I want to show you guys.
Okay.
So go ahead and grab a piece of
so
pizza.
you don't mind us eating while you?
Yeah, not at all. So we're talking about Leadville, and you guys have probably heard about the Tarahumara Indians. Way back in the mid-'90s, they came out, and they're from Copper Canyon, which is down in Mexico, and they're just, these guys who are known for their endurance. And they did very well here at Leadville, not the first year so much because they were more confused than anything with the culture. But they came back and, pretty well decimated the course.
Right.
And what I did is after one of these...
Okay. We can't eat till we see what he's pulling something out here.
After one of these races, I went up to one of them and I said, do you guys have any crafts that you do? And one of them said, yeah, I'm a carver. And I said, what do you carve? And he said, well, I carve all sorts of stuff. And I said, my daughter plays the violin. Can you carve me a violin for $100 and send it back to me? And so he did.
Wow. So this is from one of the Tarahumara Indians.
This was carved by the Tarahumara Indians.
Famous for...
Down in the canyons of Mexico.
And you can see his name
Look at that.
right here.
That
So it's
is
all
really-
hand carved, all handmade.
This is amazing.
Go ahead and
Yeah,
play it,
it's not to be played. I'm sure
Yeah.
you could if it was tuned up and everything and had the right strings. But that's just how
So
he
the
said it.
Tarahumara Indians, they were the guys that were famous. I mean, they still are, right? Famous for running ultramarathon distances in Mexico, and then somehow they were invited to come and run the Leadville race.
Right.
Is that
Right.
right?
There was a fella, his name was Fisher. He brought him here because he knew of their expertise, and I think he wanted to see how well they could do, and he wanted to help promote their culture and things like that.
Yeah.
There's, things that are, say it's to the contrary, but that's what my feeling was. And so they came here, and they came back a couple of times, and of course did very well.
You want to check it out, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for.
Yeah,
this is
it's
super
just sort of
cool.
an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And I was shocked because I just told the guy, can you carve that and just mail it to me? And about 2 months later, here comes a package in the mail, and there it was.
That's awesome.
And it's got a swan up
It's
at the
so
top.
delicate too.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Yeah.
He's got a swan coming up here.
Wow.
And
Super cool.
it actually plays.
My daughter played it when it was, it's the strings are all kind of.
Yeah.
So it could be played, but it'd have to be restrung and everything else.
But it's like beautiful
It's more of a
work. Yeah.
piece of art as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Well, thanks for showing that.
Sure. Yeah, that's
I mean,
super
after that, no, we definitely need to get
but
something
dig
to
in,
eat.
guys.
Yeah, well,
you deserve it.
Well, You first. You first.
Go and get some too.
Yeah. I mean, look at this thing. I mean, this is
Good
kind
stuff.
of a work of art as well here.
Yeah.
Right on.
That is really good. Yeah.
Super good.
You got some meat, some avocado. This is actually a great way to finish the climb.
Anytime we come to Leadville, we eat high mountain pies because, man, it's so good.
Hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Marshall. A few things I always like to plug our guests because they do so many different things and we're not able to talk about it on our TV show. So one of my favorite books of all time about running is Marshall's book, Running on Empty. He's written several different books, but that one he really gets into detail about what he ate when he was running across the U.S. Like I mentioned before, his wife passing away tragically. And also, he was one of the featured teams in the world's toughest race, which was the latest version of the Eco Challenge, which aired on Amazon Prime. So his team was one of the featured teams. It just came out not too long ago, so check that out as well. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page, visit our website, thehighpointers.com, and tell your friends. And until next time, see y'all on the next summit.